Okay, this is Narendra Kumar from NRK Academy, and today we are going to do 6A of AP State Board 10th class syllabus English. And this is 6th A, and it is on an issue of environment. The name of the lesson itself is environment. And this is an interview with Wangarii Maathai, environmental activist and also Nobel Prize winner. She's a Nobel Prize winner. Wangarii Maathai started the Green Belt movement and also fought for equal rights for women in Africa. She is the first African woman to win the Nobel Peace Prize. Read the excerpts from her interview with NHK Radio, Japan. So this is an interview. So we'll listen to a wonderful interview carried out by NHK Radio. So first question by NHK Radio goes like this. How did you become aware of the environment? How did you become aware of the environment? Then WM, Wangarii Maathai, I'm going to say WM, answers, from the time we started, we were trying to respond to the basic needs of people in the rural areas. And people were asking for clean drinking water, for food, for energy, which is mostly firewood, for building material, for fodder for the animals, and all this came from the land. So we knew that what the people in the rural areas were asking for had to do with the environment. They did not have those things because the environment was degraded. So from the very beginning, we understood that we have to rehabilitate the environment. So rehabilitate, R-E-H-A-B-I-L-I-T-A-T-E, rehabilitate, reform, make it better, rehabilitate. The forested mountains were the source of water and the source of rain. So when you deforest, when you cut the forest, you cause a shortage of water and a change of rainfall patterns, and therefore people are not able to get food and water. Therefore, in order for them to have good environment that can sustain their livelihoods, it is important to have a government that accounts to them, that protects them, that protects their interests, that is concerned about their lives. So that's a wonderful and clear answer by WM. The next question, the second question goes like this. How is peace connected to good environment? A very good question. So WM answers like this. Many wars that are fought in the world are fought over natural resources. Some wars are fought because the environment is so degraded that it is not able to support communities, and so they fight over the little that is left. Others are fought because some people want to take a lot of the resources to control them and to keep many other people out. Now, whether this happens at the national level or at the regional level or even at the global level, sooner or later there is discontent. And when that discontent is strong enough, there is conflict. So when there is discontent, people are not happy, there is conflict. So good management of the natural resources, equitable distribution of these resources is important for peace. At the same time, good management of the natural resources is not possible if you do not have democratic space, respect for human beings, respect for human rights, giving other people dignity. That is why the three themes are related. Like the African stool, African stool has 3 legs. With 3 legs and the basin on which you sit. The 3 legs, one leg is peace, the other leg is good governance, the third leg is sustainable management of resources. When you have those 3 legs, now you can put the basin, which is development. And if you try to balance that stool without those 3, it won't happen. So that's what she says, it won't happen. We have not shared our resources equitably, equally. We have allowed some people, especially those in power, to acquire a lot at the expense. At the expense means people are not getting, at the expense of the majority. And we have also engaged in conflict. The next question by NHK Radio is, what was the environment like when you were young And how did you go about saving it? When I was a child, that's what she answers, which is almost more than 50 years ago, the environment was very pristine, pure, very beautiful, and very green. We were a British colony, and the British government at that time started to clear cut the indigenous forests in our forested mountains because they wanted to establish commercial plantations of exotic species of trees, such as the pines from the northern hemisphere and the eucalyptus from Australia. These trees are very nice. They grow tall and they grow very fast. But as they grow, they destroy all the local biological diversity. All the flora and fauna disappeared. Flora and fauna. So although we were getting commercial timber from the growing timber industry, we also destroyed our local flora and fauna. So the local flora and fauna was gone. As a result, these forests, which were the water towers, were no longer able to contain the water. So when the rains fell, the water ran downstream and ended up in the lakes and oceans instead of going down into the underground reservoir so that it could come back to us in the form of rivers. One thing we noted is that not only did the rain patterns change, became less, but also the rivers started drying up. We lost our local biological diversity. So that's a lot of danger to our environment. That is why in 1975, at the very first United Nations Conference for Women in Mexico, many of the women were saying, we need food, we need water, we need clean drinking water, we need fodder for our animals. And I was wondering, what has happened? These are things that were there 20 years ago when I was a child. The environment had changed. And that's when I started this campaign to restore the vegetation and to restore the land and to rehabilitate the forests. What a wonderful answer. NHK Radio asked the next question. What happened when you started working with the women? So WM says, well, the first time when I told them, let us plant trees, the women said they did not know how to plant trees. So I asked the foresters to come and teach them, but they were very complicated. They are professionals. So there's a little satire here. It became very complicated for ordinary illiterate women. So I told the women, we shall use our common sense and just do what we do with other seeds. Women work on the farms. They are the ones who plant. They are the ones who cultivate. They are the ones who produce food. So I told them that seeds of trees are like any other seeds. So if they were to treat these tree seeds the same way they treat other seeds of food crops, there is no difference. I told them to look for old broken pots even and put seeds there. They will germinate and then they will know that these are the seedlings from the seeds they planted, and we give them plastic bags to be able to put those seedlings and to nurture them. And when they were about half a meter long, then they could go and transplant them in their farms. So in a pot you make it, put it in a plastic bag and then take it there and transplant it. Transplant means put it there from here to there. In the beginning it was difficult, but they soon gained confidence and they became very competent foresters. So I call them foresters without diplomas. So that's a very funny thing. Foresters without diplomas. So that is a wonderful answer. And the next question is, NHK Radio asks, why do you think they responded so well to your message? So what was the reason of your success? WM, it was a need. When the women said they needed firewood and building material, we responded to that need. Plant trees. Then you will have trees for firewood. You will have trees for your firewood. In the tropics, trees grow very fast. In 5 to 10 years, these trees serve as firewood, as building materials. Once we had planted those trees, we saw the need for them to understand why we have to have good governance. So it became important to give them civic education so that they could understand how we govern ourselves. Take care of ourselves. Why we govern ourselves the way we govern ourselves. Why we are managing our environment the way we are managing it. Because we were dealing with the environment, we gave them education both in civics and also in environment. That made them understand clearly why they should take up the responsibility of protecting that environment that it was not the responsibility of the government or the responsibility of somebody else to come and rehabilitate their environment on their own land. It's them, it's their responsibility. So she puts the responsibility to the people. NHK, what transformations did you see? So WM says, one of the bigger transformations that I saw was that ability of an ordinary illiterate woman to get to understand and to be able to plant trees that in 5 or 10 years became big trees, and she was able to cut them and be able to give herself energy, to be able to sell those trees and give herself an income, to be able to feel confident that she had done something for herself. That sense of pride, sense of dignity, that they are not begging, that they are doing things for themselves, was very empowering. That transformation was very powerful. The other is the transformation of the landscape. Places where there was dust, there are no more dust. There are trees, even birds and rabbits. They come back and they make the environment very beautiful. There is a shade, and sometimes even dry springs come back because the water is not running. The water is going into the ground. Very profound transformation. Profound is very, very deep, very, very beautiful transformation. And the other transformation that I saw was the willingness of the people to fight for their rights, to decide that they have a right to a good, clean environment, to decide that they will fight for their forests, they will protect their forests, and they will not allow corrupt leaders to take their public land. So that is a very passionate answer by WM. NHK Radio, how do you think you can influence the rest of Africa? So our efforts will inspire other people to stop wasting their resources and their youth in wars and instead engage in creating a peaceful environment, more peaceful states. I'm very happy about the fact that now in America you see new efforts of ensuring that Africans engage in dialogue, that they invest in peaceful negotiations for conflicts, that we manage our own environment. We must restore our environment and try to ensure that we do not fight, because we are allowing the environment, especially the land, to be degraded, and then we fight over agricultural land and grazing land. I see a lot of hope in what is happening in Somalia, what is happening in the Sudan, what is happening in West Africa. I see a lot of African leaders encouraging each other to engage in dialogue. NHK Radio. Next question. What is the one thing we can do? One thing we can do. WM. For me, my greatest activity is to plant a tree. I think that a tree is a wonderful symbol for the environment. And when we plant a tree, we plant hope. We plant the future for ourselves, for our children, for the birds. We plant something that will last long after we are gone. So when we die, and many people die, the environment, the beautiful environment will remain. So that is a wonderful interview with WM, and it's a very passionate way in which she has expressed Wangarii Maathai, and she is a Nobel Peace Prize winner, and you can see the way she went about her campaign. She started small, she educated, she was very clear. And such people who consistently do one activity, consistently fight for a better world, actually win. So that is a lesson for today. Whatever you want to do in life, do it. Do it, be committed to it, be clear, do it over a long period of time. You will find wonderful success that will give wonderful meaning, joy, and life to you. So this is NRK Academy signing out. Thank you so much for listening to us. Okay, we'll meet again, once again, with another wonderful lesson. Thank you so much.